Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
No one embodies that better than Sonic the Hedgehog, a prime example of living life to the fullest and not being tied down. But as much as he's on the move, he understands that living life too fast robs people of enjoying the moment with what time they have left, because even to him, life is fleeting and fragile. But what about an immortal who's shackled to his own history, a never-ending life as a prisoner from his own trauma? That's right, today we're talking about Shadow the Hedgehog, a prisoner of his own past, and why he's Sega's best-written character. Throughout the years, Sonic's cast of characters are always growing with each new game, some of them in the limelight more than others, but still iconic to even the most casual gamers. But no one sticks out more than Shadow, proof that Sega is still capable of writing compelling characters that leave a lasting impression. Unfortunately, you wouldn't know that if you were new to the franchise back in the 2010s and playing games like Sonic Colors, Sonic Boom, Lost World, or even Forces. During this time, Sonic and his crew came off as shallow and one-note with paper-thin personalities because of Sega's poor choices in writing. Instead of giving them the respect and creativity they deserved, Sega treated them more like a cringy Saturday morning cartoon with as much depth as a cup of water.
Anyway, it seems an evil man, and you might know him, who they call Baldy Nosehair.
Baldy Nosehair? That's the best thing I've heard all day. I gotta remember that one.
I know, I've already written it down.
Dora the Explorer and Blue's Clues had better character writing than this, because I never felt like an idiot when they were on screen. And you can see these characters change for the worse. Sonic going from a cocky yet compelling person to a corny jokester who never shuts up with the same lame quips and one-liners. Tails going from a brave little genius to a bratty coward who uses Sonic like a security blanket. And Knuckles going from a powerful yet gentle guardian who's the last of his kind to your typical meathead with the personality of, I am strong. And the issue is with all of them. But it felt as though Shadow got hit the hardest because his backstory is the most tragic one in the franchise. No, I don't count Princess Elisa's story tragic. Her father chose to experiment on Solaris. Who treats a god like a guinea pig? The Duke had it coming. But Shadow's past is one of the defining factors that make him interesting, and to make him into an angry, brooding old man who's prone to violence is one of the worst mistakes Sega could have ever made. In other words, Edgy the Hedgehog. But with Sonic Frontiers, you could tell Sega was taking things more seriously, where the characters actually felt real with layers to them, like they were back in Adventure 1 and 2. Tails realizing it's time for him to grow up and walk his own path. Knuckles reflecting on his life as Elastic Kidnap and the guardian of the Master Emerald, a life he never chose but upholds in order to honor his clan. And Sonic, still a jokester, is their voice of reason and a beacon of hope when his friends are trapped in the darkness of their own self-doubt while sacrificing his well-being to save them. Those moments made me want to give them all a hug and tell them it's going to be okay. I don't read the IDW comics, but with Ian Flynn as the main writer with creative freedom, I can see why the community holds him in such high regard. You really feel the difference in storytelling, and Shadow Generations is no different with him on board. That's not to say that Adventure 2 didn't do a great job introducing the Hedgehog, but that game came out like 24 years ago, meaning that a lot of new Sonic fans never had a chance to see the more sensitive side of Shadow, never witnessing his moments of trauma and tribulation that made him into who he is. 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog tried to flesh out his backstory, but failed terribly. And 20 years later, Sega finally tries again, bringing the Dark Hero back into his prime. But with the spotlight comes vulnerability, and the more time I spent with him, the further I fell into the depths of his inner desolation. And just as Shadow is a dark reflection of Sonic, he's an even darker reflection of ourselves whenever we let the past consume us, hanging over our heads like a dark cloud. That makes Shadow the most relatable character from Sega. As much as I love these characters, I don't relate to them at all. I'll never know what it's like to move at the speed of sound, to be the sole guardian of the Master Emerald, or fighting for world domination. And only one of those things is possible if I really put my mind to it. But Shadow is someone we can all relate to, whether or not we like to admit it. Some of us go through trauma worse than others. Some accept it as a part of them, while others reject it as if it never happened. They say death brings people together, but pain is what keeps us connected. So whether we choose to embrace it or bury it, that sense of vulnerability will always be in the darkest corners of our consciousness, and that truth can never be denied, no matter how many times we lie to ourselves. Shadow calls himself the ultimate life form any chance he gets, taking pride in his own power. Pretty much like a certain someone we all know. There's a reason why people like Shadow and Vegeta proclaim their greatness all the time, and that's to showcase their strength while hiding any traces of weakness. Call it pride, call it stubbornness, or even a fragile ego. But how often are we doing the same thing? How many times do we try to keep it together, knowing the moment we slip up, we'll shatter right then and there for all to see, and by that point, it will be too late to pick up the broken pieces. But whenever someone cares about our well-being, we smile through gritted teeth and tell them everything's fine, because we're scared of what they'll think, or because we don't want to be a burden to them. But like any worn-out mask, anyone can see the cracks if they pay attention. So even the strongest people still struggle in silence. So why would we be any different? And as much as I would love to talk more about the Saiyan Prince, this video is about the ultimate life form. Like many of us, Shadow's life is full of regrets, often rehearsing the same scenarios over and over and over again, like a nightmare that never ends. And even when we have people who want to pull us out of that dark depravity, it's only for but a moment, because we have to want it for ourselves in order to truly heal and break those shackles of the past. Telling a broken person they bring value to others and treating them well is great and all, but means nothing in the end if that person can't see it for themselves. I should know. I was one of them. And it wasn't until my friend broke down and cried when she saw the knife scars was when I realized that my life did bring value to others, and that I wasn't just a waste of space. It took some time, but I left that dark place. And though I'm ashamed of my scars, it's a constant reminder of what I am and what I'm not. I apologize for getting personal. Sometimes I can't help it when writing these scripts. But if you're in that dark place, remember that there's always at least one person who truly cares about you, even if you don't know it. But at the end of the day, you have to want that for yourself more than anyone. And Shadow was no exception, as he's forced to confront what he's left behind when he runs into Maria and Dr. Gerald. The nightmares that's haunted him for years has finally become somewhat of a dream come true, a second chance to make things right, and give him that inner peace we all want. But of course, everything has a catch, and Black Doom is quick to remind him of that. But what I find interesting about Black Doom this time around is how he's basically Shadow's inner demon. While Maria and Gerald try to pull him out of that darkness, Black Doom wants to drag him deeper until he drowns in self-deprecation. Whenever people go through painful experiences, the voice that lingers is never the one who caused it, but our own. And even though we didn't cause it, our own inner thoughts justify why it happened, and even convince us that we deserved it. So even when the reason is long gone, our inner voice takes its place as a constant reminder. And that's why I said support from others means nothing if you don't want it for yourself, because that inner voice is with you 24/7, something that's impossible for your loved ones to do. So when you're alone on those quiet nights, and that voice whispers with subtlety and suffocation, it makes it so easy to ignore those reaching out to help. That's what I think of the relationship between Black Doom and Shadow, a bond forged in blood. And just when Shadow was close to the brink of breaking apart, Maria and Gerald are there to bring him back from falling off that edge. And with that, you can see the confidence and determination on his face as he confronts his trauma, knowing where he came from doesn't determine who he is. A fact we should all live by, even in the darkest of days when life no longer feels worth living. And whether we like it or not, our past will always be a part of us, like a shadow that's always trailing behind. But where shadows tread, light is ever present, reminding us of the bright future ahead with each step forward. So when you're at a crossroads between embracing your past or rejecting it, you make the final choice, just as Shadow did, even when he wanted to save his family from their own trauma. But they taught him that life is not on a set path, for our decisions lead to various outcomes. But once that choice has been made, there's nothing we can do to change it. And that message is made clear when Maria and Gerald accept their fate when they return to their own time, not afraid of what's to come at the end of the tunnel. Their love for their brooding hedgehog is enough for them to continue forward if it makes him into the person he is today, a symbol of hope for those trapped in the dark.
Do you know why I named you Shadow? Because without light, there's only darkness. But a shadow will show you where to find the light. Do you understand?
But despite him being the ultimate life form with unlimited power, Shadow will always have that sense of vulnerability, never being able to hide it completely. And though we as people come from different backgrounds and experiences, that vulnerability is what connects us together, always willing to reach out and help one another whenever one of us falls. And that's why Shadow the Hedgehog is Sega's best written character, whose story resonates with everyone. As you can tell, Shadow is by far one of my most favorite video game characters. From his design, to his mentality, down to his motivation. But that's not to say that Sonic and the others don't have any depth to them as well. But I am curious though, which characters are your favorite and why? And would you like me to make a video on them? Because really, I'm always open to new ideas. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and please, feel free to like, subscribe, and join the conversation. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.
I don't want you to be driven by darkness. I want you to be happy. Stand in the light with peace in your heart.